Hey there, fight fans. I am John Pollock. This is Fight News Now Extra. The panel will be assembled with John Ramsden and Robin Black in just a couple of minutes. In the news today, the UFC is looking at another Canadian date this spring. Ronda Rousey signs a major deal, and the sport loses an instrumental figure in Ramon Dekkers. UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion Ronda Rousey's portfolio is about to get that much more impressive with the news that she has signed on with William Morris Endeavor, the largest talent agency worldwide. With Rousey's soaring popularity, this deal will only increase the outside offers from people wanting to get a piece of her. MMA Junkie reports that a welterweight bout between Woodley and Jake Shields is being put together for a June 15th Canadian date. The city and venue are unknown at this time. The UFC did run shows in Vancouver in June of 2010 and 2011, but have since been dropped, with Vancouver a regular stop. Woodley made his UFC debut stopping Jay Haran at UFC 156, while Shields had a win over Ed Herman at UFC 150 last August, turned to a no contest after failing a post-fight drug test. UFC analyst Kenny Florian recently spoke to MMA Mania about the recent cuts by the organization. Florian was quick to point out that it's a spectator-driven sport, and if fighters are not entertaining, then their jobs will be in danger. This comes at a time when the UFC is way over their roster limit, with many more cuts expected in the next couple of months. Wanderlei Silva is making a big promise for this Saturday's Fuel 8 card at the Saitama Super Arena, where he meets Brian Stann in the main event. Silva is confident of not only getting the victory, but doing so in exciting fashion.
Tô bem preparado, tô pronto.
I'm well prepared for this fight, and I'm ready to go 5 rounds if I have to. But this fight won't go past 3 rounds. We're both strikers, and I'll knock him out before this fight ends.
And all of us at Fight Network want to send our condolences to the friends and family of legendary Muay Thai champion Ramon Dekkers, who died tragically on Wednesday morning in his hometown of Breda in the Netherlands. Dekkers was riding his bicycle and collapsed and subsequently passed away. Dekkers retired from the sport in 2006 after more than 200 fights and was serving as an instructor at Golden Glory. We spoke with former fighter and a man that had great admiration for Dekkers, Paul Lazenby.
He was probably the most complete striker ever to walk into a ring of combat, really. I've discussed this with Boss Rutan of all people, and he says hands down Ramon Dekkers was the pound-for-pound best striker ever. And I can't disagree with that. I mean, the guy could fight both stances and often would. He was just so devastating. I remember back in 2000, Boss was over at my place. We're watching Ramon Dekkers fights. And at one point he looks at me and goes, "You know what, man, I'm surprised they could even find people to fight this guy after a while." He was that dominant. Anybody who's not familiar with the name Ramon Dekkers, you really owe it to yourself to go back, check out some of his older fights, and you'll get a sense of just how unbelievably good this guy was.
And joining us now, John Ramsden and Robin Black, and obviously starting off on a very unfortunate note, the passing of Ramon Dekkers, someone that maybe newer fans not familiar with that name, but someone that amongst the fight community, and you look at the roots of the sport, someone very instrumental, as someone that a non-Thai going into Thailand and finding so much success at 4 different weight classes.
Yeah, and the most important thing is that Ramon Dekkers influenced so many fighters, and they kind of started their journey based on the Diamond's journey, and all you have to do is go and watch this guy fight. He was absolutely fearless, and his technique was picture perfect, and he took out so many. One of the most exciting fighters in all of combat sports, and maybe arguably the most exciting fighter.
Yeah, and you know, in any field, when you lose somebody, people go back and look at their impact. You know, Whitney Houston dies, or Michael Jackson dies, and we talk about how they shaped it. With Ramon Dekkers, you know, 200 fights during formative years. You know, in that time, there were the combat sports were super popular. There were times where it lulled, but none of that mattered to a guy like this. He fought for a living, he fought for a career, and he inspired tons of people.
Yes, and 2 of those people that he began with, Marlos Kunin, Alistair Overeem, just a few of the people he worked with in his career, and someone that a very legendary career within the world of Muay Thai. We move on over. The UFC planning a Canadian date this coming June. The city has not been released as of yet. Mentioned there, they used to run Vancouver in June, but had a lot of problems there with the insurance for fighters and with the commission in Vancouver. Is this kind of their repaying of sorts to Calgary, or do you see another city, John, being on their stopping?
I mean, they know we do know that the UFC has a commitment to Calgary. They know that they can make a couple of dollars there, but I think another place that they should look at, and I've said it in the past, is Winnipeg. You have Krzysztof Soscinski from there. You can put Joe Dirksen in the first or second fight of the night. Roland Delorme has a fight, really has a fight culture there, and I think that they would be able to draw quite well. The CFC drew well there, so I just think that that's a place that they should target. considering that they have a new venue as well.
Yeah, I mean, this may be a Calgary show, but I agree with you. Winnipeg is a fight town. I come from Manitoba, and right from Donnie Lalonde, the Golden Boy, fighting out of there. I mean, mixed martial arts, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai. It is a fight town. When you put on a small show, even in Winnipeg, you can do 2,000 or 3,000 fans. Never mind putting on the UFC with a couple of Winnipeg fighters. That would be amazing.
We mentioned off the top there, Ronda Rousey signing on with William Morris Endeavor. You know, not a news story that I think people are going to be jumping up and down over, but one that certainly can have a huge ripple effect here. And I think we're starting to see that with Ronda Rousey. As your star begins to rise, you certainly get pulled in many different directions. And I think Ronda Rousey is going to be right at the top of that list of MMA talent that's going to be spreading themselves, I think, very thin because of all these people wanting a piece of it.
Yeah, and that could be crappy for fight fans because, as we saw with Gina Carano, you know, she was really at the top of her game, had a couple of opportunities to make some money elsewhere, decided to get herself involved in movies, was in Haywire, directed by Steven Soderbergh, and we haven't seen her compete in mixed martial arts. So it depends on how you look at things. I'm sure Ronda Rousey looks at it, this is a great thing. I can make money by not getting punched in the face. But for fight fans, they lose out.
Hard to get back into a camp, Robin, coming off, you know, kind of the pampered treatment of being on set every day and not getting punched in the face every day.
These people, I mean, you mentioned Gina Carano, you've got Randy Couture, you've got Rampage. These are driven human beings, and fighting is the most challenging thing out there. These are people who strive to succeed. That's what a fighter is. But when you dedicate your life to being in the physical shape and the mental shape and putting up with all that and taking those beatings, you're striving for a very difficult thing. All of a sudden, you're in movies, and people are serving you food and massaging your feet and telling you how great you look and letting you hang out in a trailer, and you're making 5 times the money for 1/10 the work. You don't have to be too crazy to want to do that.
When our own John Ramdeen here, the star of a straight-to-DVD classic here, when he came back to work, my God, we had to reinforce the doors just so he could get his head through there.
So true.
It's a very, very difficult process back to the real world. Quickly, Wanderlei Silva saying he can knock out Brian Stann in the 3rd round. Are we trying to talk ourselves into Wanderlei winning this fight, or is this a winnable fight?
No way,
Wanderlei?
of course it's winnable. Wanderlei Silva, you know, took out Kung Lee not that long ago and was very competitive with Rich Franklin. Wanderlei Silva is going nowhere. If Brian Stann decides to stand and trade, he could go down just as well as Wanderlei could go down.
Wanderlei Silva can knock out any man walking the earth, but I think Brian Stann is the favorite. It's a great fight, though. I mean, Brian Stann's younger, he's super talented, but Wanderlei is Wanderlei, and he can knock anyone out.
You will find out this Saturday night. More coming your way as Fight News Now Extra continues.